This amplifier doesn't have any watts. Honestly, when I first looked at this amp, I thought it was similar to other amps I've reviewed lately. You know, those amps that claim incredible numbers of watts, but when you look at the actual continuous average power, they're very good, not incredible. Very good for a decent range of purposes. But this amp doesn't have any watts at all, and that's because it isn't a power amp with watts. It's a preamp. What? It's the Arylic BP50. Let's unbox it. First thing I have to do, though, is consider what a preamp actually is. I'll time travel back to the days when things were easier. I'd buy an integrated amplifier such as the Sony TAF300, and it would have inputs for turntable, both moving magnet and moving coil switchable, CD, tape 1, tape 2, tuner and video or aux, and outputs for speakers and line level to record stuff to tape. And then there'd be tone controls, treble and bass, and balance to tweak what really shouldn't be an imbalance between the speakers. Oh, 2 sets of speakers, switchable. That's what we would expect from an old-style integrated amp, and a great big chunky volume control. But the amps I've been seeing lately, power amps, have either only one pair of inputs, or they're switchable among different types of inputs, RCA, optical, etc. And being power amps, this is what you would expect. Of course, power amps in the olden days only had one pair of inputs and often didn't even have a volume control, so you'd need a preamp. So the Arylic BP50 calls itself a preamp, mainly because it can't drive speakers. There's no power amp inside and, as I've jokingly said, commenters, no watts. But apart from the lack of speaker outputs, what makes this a preamp? Preamp as a term seems to imply that there's some kind of amplification going on before the external power amplifier. Well, I'm going to say that this is just a name because things need names. Purposeful names that imply the thing does something. Well, if I wanted to call this piece of equipment what it actually is, I'd call it a switcher, because that's what it is. It doesn't need to preamplify anything. Well, one thing that I'll come on to later. Apart from that, it just switches between sources. Oh, and controls the volume of your power amplifier. And if your power amplifier has a volume control too, well, you're having twice the fun. I feel the need to say all of this because calling the BP50 or any similar equipment a preamplifier seems to be building up its role to something more than it is. It's a switcher. Commenters, please feel free to disagree. Now, having said that, if the Arylic BP50 is a switcher, it's a very well-resourced switcher. Take a look here and you'll see inputs for turntable, labelled Phono, RCA line level, optical, USB-A, USB-C, Bluetooth, and HDMI ARC. HDMI ARC, by the way, is the audio return channel, where your TV can output audio as well as accept it in. You'll need a recent TV for this, but come on, who has a TV that dates from before 2009? I do. A Pioneer Kuro that I bought in December 2008, and at the time was considered by many to be the best TV in the world. I still like it, so HDMI ARC, I'll have to live without it for now. So pretty much whatever your source, the BP50 can accommodate it. Now, there is one sense in which the BP50 genuinely is a preamplifier, and that's the turntable input, which is called Phono. Personally, I like to live in the 21st century, and I don't have a turntable. Neither do I have any vinyls. But trust me, I had the whole vinyl experience in the days before CD, and a vinyl renaissance for a while, crate digging at car boot sales. And as misguided as they may be, I respect vinyl lovers. In fact, I respect them so much that I have to say clearly that since I don't have a turntable, I can't test the Phono input. This is important because although we can expect that the Phono input is just fine, I can't analyse it to the depth that a vinyl-loving audiophile would want. What I can do, however, is wonder whether the Phono input is equally suited to both moving magnet and moving coil cartridges, as the sales literature and manual suggest. As we know, the Phono input for a moving magnet cartridge has to be finely tuned, 47 kiloohms impedance, the right amount of gain for the nominal 5 millivolts output of the cartridge, low noise considering that low input level, and of course RIAA EQ. But a moving coil cartridge is different. The input impedance needs to be, from what I've researched, 10 ohms, 100 ohms, what the cartridge manufacturer recommends, but somewhere around there. That's a lot less than 47k. The output of a moving coil cartridge is less than a moving magnet, around a tenth, so there needs to be more gain. OK, no problem. My Sony TAF300 is switchable, and I presume that a long-established manufacturer like Sony would accommodate both kinds of cartridge properly. But the Arylic BP50 has no such switch. Can it detect what kind of cartridge is connected? Is it perfect for moving magnet and not so much for moving coil? Is it a compromise between the two? The manual is silent. Anyway, this is what I have to report, and maybe commenters can add more detail. Let's move on to practical issues. As you can see, the only controls are on, off and volume. That's fine. If I were to use the amp in one of my studio setups, that's all I need. I don't even need the on-off switch. My Quad 306, after my very sensible modification, doesn't even have one. Oh yes, on the BP50, you press the volume control to select the source. Can I be picky here? The feet on the unit are hard and slippery, so when it's on my desk, I have to hold it with one hand while I click with the other. Manufacturers, soft rubber feet. But what about tone controls, if this is meant to be a preamp and not merely a switcher? Well, yes, treble and bass are available on the remote. Purists may scoff, and indeed, I run my studio systems and my home cinema flat. But for my walk-in wardrobe system, okay, my bedroom system, I have a pair of Sonab OA5s. I love the spatial sound they have, but they are a bit raspy, maybe due to age, like me. So I turned down the HF. Some of my commenters have been rather disparaging about my OA5s. I tell them not to worry. I'll be getting a pair of Bose 901s soon. The remote has plenty of functions as well as tone controls. And what's fun are the preset EQs for various genres of music. Fun, in a sense, anyway. We have flat, thank goodness for that, classical, pop, jazz, rock and vocal. I'll let you hear them with the aid of my irritating unboxing music. I'll show you the EQ curves as well, which I generated with a bit of white noise, which in itself is flat, into a spectrograph plugin. You know what? I like flat. Oh, well. What I might have liked would be some sort of indication of which EQ is active. But if you forget, you can just press the button you want again. Now I need to backtrack a bit because this preamp, switcher, whatever, has a useful range of outputs as well as inputs. You can choose RCA analog line outputs, optical, SPDIF on an RCA connector, and Bluetooth for your wireless headphones. In terms of inputs and outputs, I may have called this preamp a switcher once or twice, but it's a good one. I calculate 28 combinations of input and output. Enough to keep you going for 4 weeks at the rate of one combination a day, if you're an active hi-fi enthusiast. Real enthusiasts will probably Bluetooth in from their phone, EQ to their favourite genre, then Bluetooth out again to their Bluetooth power amp or wireless headphones. I don't know whether that's even possible, but for the sake of my sanity, I'm not going to try. I'm not going to try the subwoofer output either, but I'm sure when a kindly manufacturer sends me one to review, then I will. I think what we have here is that there's lots to enjoy. You may not have considered that you needed a preamp or a switcher, and you may now possibly change your mind. Don't forget that I'm just one guy with an opinion, and there are other reviews out there that will add to your perspective. I haven't covered the mobile app here, nor the ACP Workbench software sold separately, so these might be things for you to consider further. Oh, look at this! The manual! It's all in English all the way through. It is both comprehensive and detailed, with excellent diagrams, and the print is large enough I only need my +2 reading glasses. Other manufacturers might take note. And just enough Chinese English to give it texture. So, Arylic sent me this item. I may make tiny commissions from my affiliate links in the description. Bye. Other than that, there's no payment involved, so I can say what I like, and I've said it. See you soon.